Welcome back, one and all. This week we have got a follow-on from last week's video. This week we are going to get straight into buzzbaits. Kind of the same category. It's like a spinnerbait that lives on the surface. Rather interesting category of baits. Can be very hit or miss, but can also be lethal, absolutely lethal when fished in the right places at the right times. Before we kick off, welcome to the new subscribers. Very pleased to have you guys here. Very excited. I hope you find a home here in our community on our channel. Not my channel again, on our channel. Okay, let's get this show on the road. So for those of you that have not watched the videos before, what we do is I do a little introduction and then we will go to some close-ups of my hands. Guys, I think I have rectified the close-up filming. Again, for those of you that don't know, we are not in our normal recording space. We've got a bit of a mix-match jump-around type thing going on for a couple of weeks until we get our recording space finalized. So we are actually recording in our editing room or our study. Okay, let's get the show on the road. So, once again, we don't need any specialized tackle, guys. Our 7-foot medium heavy fast rod that we bought way at the beginning of our bass fishing adventure is about the perfect rod that you could use for fishing a buzzbait. In fact, my personal buzzbait rod is a 7-foot medium heavy fast. It's fantastic. This is one of those baits that you can fish on braid. However, I will say, although I have fished them on braid successfully, it is better if you fish them on braid with a 15 to 20 pound monofilament, short monofilament leader, just a little one, 12 to 18 inch monofilament leader. Because the braid is so soft, sometimes if you get, when you're casting, if you get a slight crosswind or whatever the case might be, it can tumble the buzzbait and they get caught up in the blades and in the hooks and the braid. For those of you that have fished with braid already know when that stuff pulls tight or makes a knot, it's just not your friend. So I suggest a monofilament leader of 12 to 18 inches, 15 to 20 pounds, somewhere around there. It doesn't really matter what poundage the monofilament is. If you are uncomfortable with using it, err on the side of the heavier stuff. I myself quite happy to use a 20 pound mono leader. It's nice and stiff. It doesn't tumble in the air when you're throwing the buzzbait, that kind of stuff. All good. As far as reels go, whatever reel is on your rod is the reel that's going to get the job done. Now, for those of you that are using spinning rods, I have not done this, so I'm going to need some feedback from you. For those of you that use spinning rods that have thrown a buzzbait, Mrs. Bass Fishing Basics is heading out into the wild. For those of you that have thrown a buzzbait on a spinning rod, please leave a comment below and tell me whether the 5.5 to 1 spinning reel was fast enough to keep the buzzbait up. I'm going to tell you a couple of tricks later on for keeping it up near the surface, but I have personally not thrown a buzzbait on a spinning reel. So for those of you that have, let me know down below. Cool. So no specialized tackle. Don't go mad heavy on the braid. For those of you that want to fish the buzzbaits on braid, on the bait casting gear and on the spinning gear. On the spinning gear, we've spoken about 30 pound braid, and then with that leader that we just spoke about, the monofilament leader. And on the bait casting reels, the 30 pound braid might be a dash light. You might get away with it if you're a good caster. 40 pound braid and mono leader that we discussed. All good. That is as complicated as the tackle gets for this particular one. It is very much a chunk and wind bait, but where you chunk and wind it will determine whether you're going to be successful or not. So We will get into that a little bit later when we look at the maps and discuss different types of, we can talk about the different types of vegetation and things like that now. So let's head to the close-ups. We'll break down a buzzbait, discuss it, pros and cons, all that kind of stuff. And then we'll come back and we'll start talking about retrieves, the bite, times a year, that kind of stuff. So I'll see you next in the close-ups. Okay, here's hoping that we get this right this week. Last week was a bit of a trial and error type deal and a bit of a disaster. Okay, the makeup of a buzzbait, fairly similar to the spinnerbait actually. We've got the wire here with the blade, lead head, hook. Okay, the deal with a buzzbait is the buzzbait usually rides on the surface. So a lot of the buzzbaits that you find, I think this one's a Cavitron, the bottom of the head is either flat or maybe in a slight V, which allows the bait to come up to the surface quickly and stay on the surface quickly. So you'll see the shape of the wire is different to that of a spinnerbait because the blade ideally is riding over or close to the head of the spinnerbait, of the buzzbait. My apologies. This blade here is cupped. There's many different iterations of this blade. It's cupped to catch the water and to spin. And this one has holes in it, so they make bubbles or they gurgle. Some of them come with a clacker, which is attached to this part here. This bead is just a spacer to stop the blade from going further than that corner, which they can do. And at the back, very importantly, is a rivet. And what that rivet does is allows the blade to, it will not do it now because it's not moving fast enough, but it allows the blade to squeak. There are many guys that will tell you many different things about how to get it to squeak more effectively. Holding it out of the window of a moving car and allowing it to spin. I don't know. I just find mine start to squeak after being fished for a while. Lead head, hook. And on this particular one, trailer hook. There are loads of different types of buzzbaits. For the sake of us who are learning to fish the buzzbaits, we are going to say a 1/4 ounce and a 3/8 ounce is the best bait for getting the job done. Anything heavier than that, it's going to be very difficult to make it stay near the surface because it will sink. So let's look at a couple of different ones. As I said, I think this one is a Cavitron that I've put a new skirt on because it had the skirt ripped off it after years of service. This one is a completely different one. This is made by a company called Jackal. It is a super innovative design. It works beautifully. I have not caught any fish on it yet because I've only had it for a little while. The blade is free swinging on a swivel, but there is still a shaft that it rotates around. It makes a very gentle sound, much more gentle than the ones I make, which I'll show you in a second. And the first one that I showed you, which is a Cavitron. Sometimes you just want it to be more gentle. And again, guys, you can see there, I hope you can see that flat head for bringing it up to the surface. Now, throwing all of that out of the water, as I do with everything else that I make, my buzzbaits are slightly different. So I have a 4-bladed buzzer. You can see there. There's 4 blades. I'll tell you why in a minute. There's the rivet, same as the other ones. And I have a bait keeper. Let's see if we can get that in focus there. But essentially everything else is the same. My buzzbaits I make slightly differently because I want the blade to ride on the surface, but I want the head, the skirt, and the hook to be below the surface. Again, you can see that the blade is over the head. Now, those of you that are getting started that have never fished a buzzbait before, the majority of the time you will probably buy the 2-bladed buzzbait, which is this one that we saw here, 1, 2. The problem with a two-bladed buzzbait, and it's not with all buzzbaits, but it is with a lot of them, they tend to swim off to one side. I think that is just a fluid dynamics type deal, the same as a propeller on a boat. So I, as well as these being clear, I prefer to use the one with 4 blades. And I find, for whatever reason, because I am not a scientist, they swim in a straight line. And I like that a lot. Another type of buzzbait you may come across is something like this. This is another one that I made. This is designed to be fished with a frog bait, like a horny toad. So there's no skirt on this. It's essentially just the blade, a piece of wire to a Stanley double toad hook with a spring. Wind the toad onto the spring. And for those of you that don't know how to rig the toad, go and watch the frog video. You will see how to rig it there. It's a couple of videos back. You do in fact get a naked buzzbait like this, in other words with no skirt, that is made specifically for fishing toads. I think the one company that I know of, they call it a toad sled, which is pretty damn cool. And essentially, instead of having the skirt as the attractant part, you have the buzzing legs of some kind of a frog or toad, or you could have a swim bait on the back of there, or you could have a speed worm on the back of there, whatever you like. I don't often fish a trailer on my buzzbaits, but when I do, it is usually something like a small soft plastic swim bait with a little paddle tail behind it. I do have the toad sleds of my design that I showed you there for fishing the frog specifically, but with this I don't want too much going on the back of the bait. So if I do fish a trailer with it, it's normally a little 3.5 to 3.8 inch paddle tail swim bait, boot tail swim bait. As far as colors go, you could throw whatever color makes you happy. For me, I like to try and keep it quite simple, so I use black and white buzzbaits. I think I may have one that is got black and chartreuse in it. Other than that, those are the colors I use. Keep it simple, guys. Keep it simple. I use white ones in cleaner water, and I use black ones in dirtier water. That has always worked for me. It may or may not be the right way to go about doing it. It works for me, and it means you don't have to have hundreds and hundreds of buzzbaits in your boat. Okay, that covers the makeup of the buzzbait. Where do we throw these things? Let us get out our handy dandy map and get straight into it. A buzzbait is a primarily shallow water bait. So let us say a bait that can be thrown from 0 feet of water up to around about 8 feet. There are exceptions to the rule, as there always is with bass fishing. Some things I have seen done, especially particularly on lakes that have blueback herring. I have seen guys in 50 feet of water throwing a buzzbait when the bass push the blueback herrings up to the surface, and just throw the buzzbait past the bait fish and wind it over the top of it. It creates a massive disturbance. The fish come up and hopefully eat the heck out of it. So, like last week, it seemed a little bit vague with our map. Everything here that is green, guys, is what we would consider to be shallow water. What is more important here is the type of cover or structure you would throw the buzzbait around. This could be anything, but primarily where they shine is near submerged or emergent vegetation. And what that means is vegetation that has not made it to the surface yet. And you would fish the buzzbait or buzz the buzzbait over the top of the submerged or emergent vegetation. Emergent vegetation is vegetation that is still growing to the surface. However, you could absolutely throw a buzzbait down, or if you are good enough, underneath a dock and buzz it down the sides of the dock or across the front of the dock. A big flat expanse of shallow water would be a dynamite place to throw a buzzbait. Around stumps, dynamite place to throw a buzzbait. If you have a lot of boulders in shallow water where they might be just below the surface or just breaking the surface, and you are buzzing the buzzbait over the top and around the boulders, dynamite place to throw a buzzbait. If you have tules or reeds in your lake that have lanes going between them, where, in other words, where they're not so tight that you would be forced to throw a frog if you wanted to get through them, that is a fantastic place to throw a buzzbait. You could throw it through these lanes and just a nice steady wind through those lanes of the tules, pop, 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 get that thing moving, get it buzzing, get it clacking, get it making a racket. Dynamite, absolute dynamite. If you are confident enough to do it, you could skip or throw a buzzbait under overhanging branches up onto a shallow bank and wind it out from the shade into the light. They will crush it. If they are there and they are hungry, they will crush it. In recent years, particularly the professional anglers, but that does not mean that we cannot do it, have started focusing on things like the shad spawn, where they will throw either a white buzzbait or a white buzzbait body with a white horny toad bait or a white buzzing toad bait on the back of it, where the shad are spawning. In that particular case, you would physically look for the shad spawning, or look for birds on the bank that are eating the shad whilst they are spawning. And same thing, you could parallel the bank where you see the spawn happening, wind it straight through those fish that are spawning if you can physically see them, or around them, or if they're spawning in bushes, throw it around the bushes and try and get it as close as you can to whatever those fish are spawning on. Dynamite bait for that kind of work. So again, guys, like last week or the week before, whenever it was, it may seem like I am being vague with the map references, but with it being primarily a shallow water bait, any shallow cover or structure that you can think of that is in your lake, that is not thick matted stuff, you can throw a buzzbait around. When it comes to the thicker matted stuff, this is the route we go. Floating frog or a horny toad. Something like that. That is the end of the close-ups. Let's go back to the main camera. And we're back. Okay, so that's the close-ups dealt with. Not a lot to it. Maybe you have to be a little bit smart about how you buy your buzzbaits, but not a real tricky bait when it comes to selection and throwing them. So, let us talk about the retrieves. We spoke about in the close-ups about mainly two sizes of buzzbait, a 1/4 ounce and a 3/8 ounce. I have personally fished with a 1/2 ounce buzzbait before, and guys, it is quite hard work trying to keep it up near the surface. Even with a 7.6:1 gear ratio reel, they want to sink. 3/8 is the happy medium for when we're learning. 1/4 ounce is a fantastic bait when you are in a lake where maybe the bait fish are slightly smaller or the frogs are slightly smaller, and maybe it's just post spawn and there's a lot of fry in the water, or whatever the case might be. They are a little bit trickier to throw on the bait casting gear. They seem to be, buzzbaits in general are fairly wind resistant because of the blade or the buzzer. The guys that are using the spinning rods, they are the ones that are going to win with the 1/4 ounce one. So so we got that out the way. Let's talk about the retrieve. The retrieves are fairly straightforward. We showed on the map some of the best places to fish buzzbait. And as we always say, guys, there's no rules. But the retrieve is essentially fire the bait out, right at kind of a 45-degree angle, and just a good steady wind. That's all it is. You can speed it up to make the blade buzz, and then just go back to your steady wind again. One of the things I like to do as well when I'm busy winding the buzzbait is just like to just pop the rod tip sometimes. And what that does is it goes like that and maybe throws a little bit water, changes the cadence of the lure slightly, makes a skirt flare on the back if you're using a skirt, if that's the route that you're going to go. So in essence, pretty similar to how you would retrieve a spinnerbait. Like we said right at the beginning of the video, it's not all that complicated. It's a fairly straightforward bait. A lot of guys complicate a buzzbait. For what reason, I do not know. But it is not a complicated lure. And at certain times of the year, this would be a great lure for people that are just starting out or learning to bass fish. It's particularly if you are learning to bass fish in smaller ponds, not on big lakes that get pressured by hundreds of thousands of fishermen all year long. If you are somebody that likes to walk the bank or fish smaller ponds or smaller lakes where the access might be a little bit limited for the bigger boats, as people that come and destroy all your fishing with our bigger boats, great bait. Especially, we'll get into times of year just now, but especially kind of late spring, post spawn, and then again in the fall or the autumn. It is not a bait that I would recommend throwing at all times of year. There are certainly merits to throwing it at all times of year. You could play the early and late card if you wanted to go. Instead of throwing a popper or a topwater walking bait, you could most certainly throw a buzzbait. If that is your bait of choice and you enjoy throwing it, throw it. But it's one of those baits that is very good at certain times of the year. And at other times of year, there's baits that will do the job better. That does not mean don't throw it. That just means there are other baits that will work better than a buzzbait. There are certain lakes that I have been to and fished regularly, where I used to live in South Africa, where fish just do not respond to a buzzbait at all, or they do not respond to a buzzbait at certain times of the year. So you have to be aware of that, and it is difficult to explain it to you because your lake may well differ from your neighbor's lake that's half a state away or a state away or half a country away or in a completely different country. So the advice, although it seems very weak, would be just to throw the thing. I would start throwing a buzzbait late into the spring once the water starts to warm a little bit, so kind of post-spawnish, although I do know some guys that throw buzzbaits pre-spawn. Nothing wrong with it. If it works for you, it works for you, particularly in lakes that don't get as cold in the wintertime. And then post-spawn, kind of into the summer, and then it sort of kind of tapers off from about halfway through the heat of the summer, kind of to the beginning of the fall. They don't seem to want to hit it that hard unless there is something like a shad spawn in the lake where you live, or whatever the case might be. And then from kind of a quarter of a way through the fall again, they start whacking them. When the water starts to get too cold, you'll just see the bite will completely die. It is not a wonderful bait to throw in very cold water, like in the wintertime. If you're blessed enough to live somewhere where you don't get iced up, it's not a bait that I would recommend that you throw in the winter. You could obviously try it in the winter. It is a very good bait for catching pike. I've caught a lot of pike on buzzbaits. So if you are happy to let them have a go, let them have a go if you live somewhere where there's pike. So, like we've said countless times throughout other videos that we've done, there are no rules. So if you you are somebody that enjoys throwing a buzzbait and you want to throw it all year long, throw it all year long. The more you throw it, the more fish you're going to catch on it. That's just that's simple maths. The more time you give to that bait, the more fish that you're going to catch on it. It's as simple as that. It's not complicated. Do you want to wear yourself out throwing a buzzbait? It's quite a physical thing to throw, and that's entirely up to you. If you're young and fit and you're going to do it all day long, do it all day long. I have found, unless there's some kind of a spawn or a bait fish being pushed to the surface somewhere, best times for buzzbaits for me have always been early and late. Does that mean that they will not work at midday? No, it doesn't. Absolutely does not. In fact, if you've got a good warm overcast day, you could probably throw a buzzbait all day long and probably catch fish on it all day long. It's one of those baits. What we are trying to do in this series of videos that we are doing now is to give you somewhere to start. I want you guys to put in the comments below, you're a liar, you told me it wouldn't work at this time of day, blah, 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 whatever the case might be. I will not take offense. In fact, I will take that information, store it up here, and if I happen to be around the lake where you live one day, I will try it. I will steal your idea and I will do it, and hopefully I will catch a fish on it. And that's how we all learn together. So put it in the comments below if you have caught fish on buzzbait in the winter time, or pre-spawn, early spring when the water's just starting to warm, or you catch them on bright sunny days where you live. More factors that can influence the best times of day or best times of year to throw buzzbaits are things like wind. I've always found yes, you will definitely catch fish on a buzzbait when it's slick calm, but I've always found when there's just a little ripple on the water, they seem to work better for some reason. Maybe it's because it breaks up the outline of the bait from below, and the bass don't get as good a look of it, and they come up and see, here's a thing trying to escape on the surface, and they whack it, and that's it. If the water has got a little bit of stain to it, and you throw, say for example, you throw a black buzzbait, or a black and chartreuse buzzbait, something that creates a profile in that more stained water, it can be lights out. If you get around some vegetation, and you've got some stain to the water, lights out. If you find a buzzbait that you can fish relatively slowly compared to most other buzzbaits, so just a real slow wind or a slow roll like we discussed with the spinnerbaits in the previous video, then you could fish really dirty water with it. Really mud chocolate water. I wouldn't recommend it in cold muddy water, but certainly if you've got a warm rain in the summertime, it's definitely something worth considering if fish respond to buzzbaits in your chosen lake or your chosen body of water where you're going to fish at that particular time of year. Cold muddy water, I don't think it's the answer. It's a fast moving bait. The fish are not going to really react to it. But again, like we said, there's no rules. You want to throw it, throw it. This is a particularly good bait for those of us that fish from the bank. As we discussed in the close-ups, a lot of the good structure to throw buzzbaits around is bank bound. So you've got tulies, reeds, pads, docks, boat ramps, stumps, emergent vegetation that's not quite at the surface of the water yet. All of that is great. And the good thing for the bank bashers is you can access most of that with a spinnerbait from the bank. The only thing that I will recommend is, and I always say the same thing when people ask me questions about fishing from the bank, when you are fishing from the bank, and particularly with moving baits, although with all baits, but particularly with moving baits, you are looking for active fish all the time, fish that are hunting when you are fishing with moving baits. When you approach the spot on the bank, so when you are walking down to that spot where you're going to fish off the bank, do it slowly, particularly in lakes that have clear water, and try your best not to stand right at the water's edge and cast a shadow over the water, or that the fish will be able to see the movement of you casting over the water. As we discussed in the close-ups, a buzzbait is primarily a shallow water bait. So you are targeting fish in water from this deep out to, say, 5 to 8 feet, for argument's sake. So try to stay back from the water's edge. Try to not let your shadow fall onto the water. It's not always possible, guys, but try. And that will help you in not spooking fish that you might be targeting that are close to that spot where you have chosen to fish. Just a little tip there, guys. What about the bite? What does a bite look like on a buzzbait? There's two main bites that you get with buzzbaits. A lot of the time, particularly when the fish are super active, it looks like someone has taken a Massey Ferguson tire, tractor tire, and thrown it into the lake. On top of the buzzbait, it's just, it's like a toilet getting flushed. And the other type of bite is, you'll be winding, you'll hear it on the surface, and the next thing, it's gone. But there's no huge explosion or massive splash or whatever. Bass has just come up behind it and sucked it down, and off it's gone. In both cases, guys, both cases, you take up the slack, wind down. It's a discipline thing, like we discussed when we did the frog video. You wind down. If you feel any weight, full send. Absolute full send. If you wind down and there's nothing there, there's nothing there. Pick the rod tip up, wind it, maybe the fish will come back and have a second go at it. Wind down, feel weight, bang, hit it straight away. Don't wait. If you strike when that fish hits the buzzbait on the surface, there is a very good chance you're going to take the bait away from the fish. Very good chance. Especially if you're fishing with braid. Braid is very direct. There's very little stretch. When you set on the fish, that's it. I think one thing that we forgot to mention, when we did the tackle, was this is not a bait that you want to fish on fluorocarbon. Fluorocarbon sinks, and that means it'll bog the bait down, and it won't allow it to come up to the surface. Just something that popped into my head, guys. I think that we kind of got everything covered there. I think that's about it. Not a terribly long video today, guys. It's a kind of a follow-on from the spinnerbait to the buzzbait type deal. So I hope that you've learned something today. I'm grateful if you're here for the first time. I'd really love it if you would join our community. You guys know how to do that. And next week we will be moving on to something fresh. See you next time, guys.